Welcome to Mental Health Streams on TopHealth. And today I have Karin Stephan with me, who is co-founder and COO EarKick. Karin, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Vivek. It's a pleasure being here.
And Karin, this is a very, very hot topic discussion for us today. A lot of air, let's say, is there about AI in mental health and how this is not good for patient, not good for therapist. And today we're going to discuss this and take a stand against and provide your point of views in this discussion.
Looking forward.
All right, let's jump into something that bothered me, and I messaged you especially for this thing. Some people argue that AI in mental health is more of a hype than reality. Even claim it could actually harm therapist-patient relationship. How do you respond to that, and why do you think AI has a place alongside therapists?
Oh, it's a very good question. And also, I think it's good to have criticism. It's always inspiring, at least to me. And I think this criticism largely stems from a misunderstanding of AI's intended role in the mental health ecosystem, So, while AI is definitely not here to replace human therapists, it is brilliant at supplementing, at augmenting, at extending the reach of mental health support. And that's what we're all after, right? So, just to quote our users, they describe how EarKick serves them as a 24/7 companion, helping people when they're overwhelmed, when they're panicked, or just need a momentary check-in, And so we're hearing all these stories of caregivers, like one user who's the sole caretaker of her husband who suffered a stroke and now is turning to EarKick's AI to work through her challenges at all hours, something that a traditional therapist shouldn't have to and can't always provide on demand. And, therapists, and we know that, they are so hardworking and they have limited bandwidth. They can't be available at 3:00 in the morning when panic strikes or a funny thought crosses your mind. But an AI companion can. It provides immediate support, self-help exercises, be it, like a breathing exercise, and just a calming presence until a user's next, point of therapy session, point of support. Rather than weakening that therapist-patient relationship, as alluded before, users do report that it actually enhances it. And, again, one of our users said the AI kind tells them the same things that their therapist does, but in a smaller, more digestible portion. And it's delivered exactly, and here's the thing, when they need it. All week long, all night long, whenever it's needed. And this is where the reinforced learning comes in. And this is very important. It's not just on the AI side that there is learning, but also on the patient side too. Hearing consistently evidence-based nudge repeatedly, and with all the patients in the world, that helps users internalize, whatever strategies work for them best. And just as practice reinforces a skill, encountering the same therapeutic concept in multiple contexts in your life, in your real day, pressure cooker happenings, over time makes them more familiar and more easier to implement during those moments of stress. And by the time patients return to their therapist, they've not only maintained continuity between sessions and stayed motivated, but they've also effectively practiced the tools that they've learned. So instead of forgetting coping strategies, once they were out of the therapist office, they built a mental toolkit that's readily accessible when life throws all those lemons their way.
Yeah. And there's something you mentioned about, there is one part is the tool is ready to address, these kind of interactions. The other part is, because this is still AI, how much it is on the patient to, of course, use it effectively, but also teaching the tool what the patient need, how much that goes like from a tech perspective? Give us a little insight.
Well, we all want to feel like we're heard on one side. We want to feel like when we tell the therapist or the tool, it doesn't matter, something about us, that they will remember it and that they will give us suggestions or, company based on that. And that's why EarKick, our AI, several models, one just does the measurement. The other one works on memory so that when you tell EarKick something, it's going to remember it. It's going to know the difference. And this is very hard technically between this happened 2 years ago, this happened 2 weeks ago, this happened yesterday. And once you can do this technically, the interaction becomes so much easier. People hate to repeat the story over and over again. They have a change of therapist and they start from scratch, telling their whole story, going through it all again to then reach a point where they can really work. And EarKick and the AI we built not only measures continuously, but also keeps giving you those insights back. Does this within the context of the interactions? And then again, remembers and gives you the impression, you perceive it as something that is only for you based on your true data, based on what's going on in your life now, and based on the knowledge of what worked before. So that's why technically it makes so much sense to combine it with traditional approaches and with existing tools.
This is one of the superpowers here, right? Like I've seen in
Mhm.
doctor offices when I go, and they don't remember because they see so many patients. They don't remember
Of
all the
course, they're
details.
humans.
So the what and it's obvious, right? So what they're doing is they're opening their computer, reading about okay, last visit was these are the things that has happened, and all of a sudden with AI, this permanent memory that it has is incredible, and I feel like this is where the true powers of like limitations of human world, where we can start relying on tech, plays a bigger role and bigger part. And to this, my second question is I hear like this is like a hobby box stuff in tech, by the way. This is very like a practice from 20 years. I've seen this now. Is like, AI's role in mental health is limited to just administrative work. No, we will not do anything out of that box of whatever is just triaging an appointment, not anything beyond in that patient's journey. So how would you react to that? What's I'm sure EarKick is proving these skeptics wrong and tackling deeper challenges that's happening in mental health care. So tell me about this. How do you tackle these arguments?
Well, a lot of people, and for good reasons, assume that AI in mental health is just a little more than a glorified scheduler or a basic triage tool, And that idea, I have to say, is outdated. At EarKick, we're proving that AI can do so much more than just push people into queues or put labels on them, right? Our platform engages in a genuinely meaningful and hyper personalized conversation because of the measurement, and it guides individuals through emotional pain, helps them develop coping strategy, and provides a sense of connection, even if it's in a digital context. Users tell us that they feel heard, if you can say so, and validated. And they say that the EarKick AI Panda, the companion, understands them better than the human therapists they've encountered. This level of perceived empathy, I say perceived empathy and connection, goes far beyond simple triage or, connecting some dots. And it's not just about offering quick fixes or any of that. It's really about supporting users working through grief, dealing with anxiety attacks, or just like as a long-term personal companion for personal growth and goals. So in fact, our, our recent studies show that continued use of EarKick can lead to 57%, let that sink, reduction in anxiety and significant mood improvements within just a few weeks. And this Like this isn't about streaming appointments. This isn't about taking notes automatically. It's about providing deeper, more continuous support to people who need it the most right then and there, right? So I think AI can do so much more. And yes, it will still do scheduling. It will still do all these things, but it's so much more. And we need to use all that. It's so exciting. I get all excited just thinking about it, what we can do with it. And AI won't mind, it'll do the scheduling, it'll do the triage, it'll do all kinds of things. But let's not keep it so small.
Yeah. And I think the point that we want to highlight here is uh, as human to human, and I'll just give example of my life, right? Like my 2-year-old is asking me something, but at that point, I have a different state of mind or I'm distracted. I will
Mm-hmm.
react to that situation differently than when she's asking me something else when I'm just doing something else or not doing something
Mm-hmm.
else. So I feel like this is where almost again a superpower of AI to provide me with that consistency is that consistent feedback that is not associated with the dynamic nature of mood that as a person I would have, right? And that changes the game so much because now I know that I can have almost like this AI when I need it, and it's going to provide me that consistent response in terms of emotions. It's not ruled by other emotions that humans we are right, like we are impacted by ecosystem, we are impacted by where we are impacted by the person who we are talking, and that can lead to
Mm-hmm.
your different responses, right? So and I think that is also a big part of it. I almost like feel like that is like that just having that like flavor of consistency plays a bigger role in like you can expect consistent response when you're asking questions in a way like not emotionally changes with different day, different time, all that stuff.
Yeah. I would even add to that also objective to some point. And, you know, it's very important that we can be human and very emotional. And that's what life is. That's the spice of life. But having the option to then also have a tool that is not subject to those feelings and emotions and ups and downs is a good second opinion, at least that. And again, the strength of AI is connecting a gazillion dots and make sense of it. Whereas, our interactions with humans we have emotions, have experiences, have their own personality, adds a totally different quality and layer to the whole package of what we can use to help ourselves or help others. So again, it's a collaboration, not the competition between humans and AI.
Yeah, let's talk about a little bit about emotions here. So
Mhm.
critics often say that AI cannot truly understand human because it lacks the empathy and
Mhm.
cultural awareness. Do you think that criticism is fair, or does it reflect misunderstanding of AI?
Well, it's fair. It's fair to question AI's capacity for true human empathy because at its core, AI does not feel emotions, right? But when we talk about empathy, it isn't just about feeling what another person feels. And I question people a lot whether they can do it. It's also about responding helpfully in a non-judgmental and in an accurate way to the user's emotional state. And when I say to the user's emotional state, I mean the real state, the data-driven and based on your own data state. And the feedback from our community suggests that the users, they feel understood and supported, and that's what matters. They're sharing their deepest fears, insecurities. They are sharing their challenges, with an AI shaped as a panda. And they describe it as shockingly clever and insightful. And now we can discuss, ad nauseum whether empathy and AI can truly understand all that. The best human and AI tool is worth nothing if people don't trust it and if they don't accept help. I keep repeating this over and over. You cannot create benefits for someone if that person cannot accept, for whatever reason, cannot accept and doesn't want to accept support. So you can have the most empathetic person or tool on earth. If it doesn't manage to get the other side to accept that support, nothing will happen, right? And AI learns, AI adapts, and it finds out how exactly that person is going to accept help. Because that's what we all want. We want people to be open to a helping hand, whether it's a human hand or it's an AI or something else or a book or some other resource, right? So that's where we are focused on. How can we make people accept something that's good for them? AI is patient. AI doesn't tire. It nudges you. It tries to slice it this and this other way to make you accept the presence of support. And so that means that, yes, we haven't cracked the code of a perfect empathy. Instead, it means that AI, through thoughtful training, it can learn to respond in a way that users find validating and supportive. And then on the cultural awareness front, for example, that's also a topic that comes up a lot. No single human therapist can fully embody every cultural nuance, but AI can learn, and it can be trained on a very diverse range of inputs and contexts in the best practices to increase that cultural sensitivity over time. And so this is all an evolving journey. With the responsible development that we really push and the continuous improvement, AI's capacity to acknowledge and work with cultural differences or, whatever situation it encounters, and it enables it to tailor responses, and it can only grow from here. I mean, we're at the very beginning of what is possible.
And I know EarKick is able to, I guess, like know when the users are typing in really fast. It can detect probably the
Mm-hmm.
emotion, how they're feeling it, right? So there is that part of understanding for tech to like how the user might be feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and then reacting it based on that. So how do you train tech on that? Could you talk about this, like how in EarKick's world, how are you making sure that's getting to the right level, how you want to?
Yeah, first of all, we made sure at the very beginning, before we built anything, to collect high quality data, real life data out in the world, not in a doctor's office situation where everything's quiet and people are minding what they're saying and they're maybe not being themselves. We collected that data out in the wild. So people on that bus ride, people at home, TV, babies screaming, whatnot. And this created a huge data set that is robust against noise. It's robust against bias. It's robust against a lot of things. And if you take that kind of very quality data and build the technology using that, then the outcome will be very accurate. And we also take into consideration, things like the weather, fitness tracker data, sleep data, um, movement, how many steps you take, how you type, how your voice sounds, what you look like if you use video. And the more of these sources, plus the high quality data that we collected, you put together, the more accurate your predictions and your measurement becomes. And all of that, it can be read on our various blogs that we write about the tech, and people can read up on it, how we do it, how we measure against other things. In fact, our AI team just published a paper on how they use LLMs, how they train it to solve, let's say, a test for psychologists or psychiatrists with a very, very in a very proficient way.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, there is also big topic on, ensuring that it is equal outcomes for everyone, especially using AI in healthcare. And a lot of people think that that's just not possible with AI, and it's flawed. AI is flawed in doing that. Uh, Again, you touched briefly in your previous answer, but can you go more about how do we make sure, or what's your response to that criticism here?
To bias, you mean?
Yes, the biases and making sure everybody gets, you know, equal outcomes and not biases based on how it's being trained.
Well, bias is, in my opinion, is a challenge, a huge challenge, but it's not a fatal flaw.
Mm.
Much like a human therapist must also be aware of their own biases, and work actively to mitigate them. And AI requires, not just high quality data to begin with, but also ongoing efforts to identify, understand, and correct biases if in its initial training data, if there is, and in its decision making process. So in our case, not only do we measure everything, A/B test everything, and have rigorous controls, we, as I said, we collect our own data. We didn't buy it from someone or any of that. And that's why it's so incredibly reliable, and robust against also bias. In addition, we continuously refine our models and we continuously audit the AI's interaction. So it's not like, oh, you do it once and then it just goes. It's constant challenging it. And every week there is a new version shipped. So it's an ongoing circle of learning, and improving and aligning and refining. We also rely on user feedback as a vital part of this process. If, for example, it hasn't happened, but if a user from let's say, certain cultural background, or a group, and with a certain condition feels misunderstood, like it's just one message to us and we know. And we take this very, very seriously. People can just reach out to us founders directly, and within, like hours, we react. So I would say adjusting the AI's responses to improve cultural competence and inclusivity is just a matter of having very rigorous guidelines and having very rigorous testing, being totally data driven. And that's what the team is. And just as, like clinical guidelines evolve with new research, so does AI, and it improves by the day. Bias may not never be completely eradicated. I can't claim that. But neither in humans or machines. Vigilance, however, and accountability and data-driven strategies will lead to dramatically reduced bias, and it will really have the impact strive for this equitable outcome that you are proposing here for every user. A,
It's
a human can learn from maybe 100 cases. Maybe it's more, right? AI can learn from infinite cases, millions, billions of cases,
Yeah, and not only that, but very fast.
very
Human will.
fast. And yeah, it's very difficult to really change a human experience and augment it, within our brains. Yes, we can learn a lot, but there is physical limits to what we can remember and what we can correlate, and how well we do at that. I think in the combination, humans and AI, that's really strong.
It seems like it that when I think about accessibility of solutions like EarKick or similar,
Mhm.
applications, is would you say if we want to come up with like, hey, how do we make it accessible to a lot of people? I guess the first part of it is just like making sure data training, right? Like it's like your, something I like to take example from, all these the DNA testing companies that popped up in the US, and the way it was like crazy. And I'll tell you my example. because I immigrated here, and when I put my DNA test, it will certainly show I'm just from that. And over time, it's collecting more data, and then it's matching more, and that's
Mm-hmm.
because of data, right? Like that's purely
Yeah.
lack of it. It does not have utility for me if I do the test on ancestry.com at that point, right? And but
Mm-hmm.
for in the US who were doing it, because it was a US company, it has US data, and it gave more insights on their backgrounds and stuff, right? So I think when we think about AI in terms of accessibility, is also like the first thing is like that cultural data, that nuances that trained on this,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing or the only thing we are limited by making sure this is open for all is making sure you have fed machine that data, right? Like that's what it is. The second part of it is, which is a tricky one, then how do you get into the hands of everyone, right? That's like the accessibility part. So talk to me about both things. How do you think about, because I think you probably think more than anyone else right now, like how do we get this thing into the hands of more people across the world? And is there a systematic approach EarKick is taking specifically? Talk to me about a little bit that.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of AI. Not only that it keeps learning and, it's amazing what it can do, but also that it's so easily scalable. Also, the timing problem that traditional mental health care models struggle with, that everything is kind of lagging. It, AI can support immediately and have this feedback loop going all the time. So yes, one thing is getting better at doing what it does, but the other thing is also getting it in the hands of basically all 8 billion people, right? We're working really hard at this because yes, the more people we can help and reach, the more the machine starts to, scale and reach even to the most remote parts of the world. I mean, everyone nowadays, or almost everyone, has at least one device. So technically it's possible. But again, we come to the thing of acceptance. And we're seeing lots of young people use EarKick and also spread the word. I think it's just a matter of time when it becomes, the new normal, that you have this tool, that you have this option next to everything else. And then, like when we have the typical problems of waitlist, geographic limitations to therapy, cost barriers, whatnot, or you don't like someone and it doesn't gel, we can put that aside. And hopefully we can find a way to not only make it totally affordable for everyone, we're working on that very hard too, but we'll also make it easily shareable. And right now, we have a lot of organic growth. So people really share it with their friends. Is it enough? No. We need partners. We need, actually, we need virality for this. And I'll tell you why. Mental health and all these issues that come our way, they get worse the longer we wait. And so you can imagine the urge that I have. Every morning we wake up to emails and messages from users who say, you saved my life. You helped me with this. You helped me with that. And you do the math and you go like, wait a minute. You like, we helped 100,000 people, let's say, but we could be helping 8 billion people. How do we get there? How can we create this momentum and create this flywheel effect, these network effects to really benefit everyone? That's what keeps me up, because every day that goes by where someone doesn't get the support they deserve is a pity, is an opportunity lost. So we need all hands on deck on this one. And the other thing is that it's very interesting, and that alludes to what you said before about the DNA testing. If we have 8 billion people connected, you know, every journey in mental health is unique. Nobody has the same. But the AI and big data and all that is possible with it is enabling us to cluster. And so let's say you have your things that work for you, Vivek. If somebody comes to the platform that is similar to you, has the same habits, similar challenges, maybe similar background, whatever, the algorithm will know and will not run you through tests and trials and tell you to do this and then, oh, maybe not. It will really be very accurate in proposing things that, given all the knowledge it has and all the tests and trials it has gone through, it'll be able to give you very, very actionable and efficient strategies that match your unique journey. And that's the beauty of having as many people as possible connected on that platform.
Something you mentioned here, I use this in marketing a lot, is like how we think about is like buyer journeys, and it's a lot about like recognizing from your data a set of buyers who have similar kind of things, almost to improve your sales cycles or your journey as customers. And this made me think that it's almost like what you're hitting on here is like because we have so much data and so much this, you are kind of like the AI is able to build those um, patient journeys, not to say patient journeys, more like mental health journeys for specific patients. And it can group that together, and then it can provide output or interactions based on that, which I think is super powerful to like I don't know if enough mental health companies stress that. That's something I think would be like, oh, as a consumer, yeah, okay. Now something that recognizes, understands there are different kind of ways, and then creates a path for me more customized to that. That would be really powerful. Just came to my thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And take this further. Now we're talking here about patients and therapists and the healthcare system. But in essence, it doesn't have to be only in that realm. Imagine you have a goal, you want to write a book, or you want to become a better runner, whatever, It's the same. There will be someone out there that is in a very similar situation with similar habits, similar biomarkers, whatever. And you can profit from that. Imagine that, it could be about personal growth. It could be about all kinds of things, coaching for this, coaching for that. Doesn't only have to be reduced to mental health. But we started with mental health because without mental health, there is no growth. There is no real fulfilled life if we're stuck in some condition that cripples us, right?
Yeah. Um, it's I almost feel like it's not just mental health, it's mental and wellness now. So, because we are talking about the preventative and other how you do mental makeup of doing things, and this is the overall wellness. We want to live an optimized life in general. So yeah, talk to me this point of how much, like, we don't talk enough of in preventative care about solutions like EarKick. What's your take on that? Like, how much could AI actually prevent the mental health crises instead of discovering it later and then treating things versus proactively? It's helping throughout, just like in daily life, so that we don't go in that state.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fact that traditional mental health care is reactive, right? You have to get ill enough or qualify to go there and get some help. And also, you will probably not call your therapist because you have a funny thought at night, Yeah. But that funny thought or that conversation with your coworker that really impacted you and hurts you can evolve into a problem, right? So if you address it early, chances are you can deal with it while it's small. Chances are you can deal with it by yourself or with the help of an AI. Chances are that your whole day is going to evolve differently. Chances are that your life is going to be different, right? So again, prevention is tricky, Because if something doesn't happen, how are you going to measure it, right? But over time, if you can see that people take better decisions, they come better prepared, they have more knowledge about themselves, more understanding about what impacts them, that will lift the whole thing to a totally different level. And we no longer wait for things to happen and then we act upon, but we have a choice. And we can, we can take decisions or learn about ourselves in a way that rewards us, because that's all what it is all about. Nobody's going to do something just because they're supposed to do it. They will do it if they see a positive outcome. And if prevention, as it is something that empowers you, you read let's say you read the weekly review, the weekly report you get from EarKick, and it tells you, hey, Karin, you've been doing, your breathing exercises well last week, and here is how it played out in your data. Keep going, right? What it's doing, it's giving me a tap on the shoulder, giving me a very, very data-driven reason to keep doing this. And there you go. That's the beginning of prevention. Or if the algorithm detects a pattern, maybe it's a thought pattern. Every time I have to go on stage, I feel like I'm the dumbest person in the room and people are going to make fun of me. And maybe that's my belief. EarKick is going to challenge that. And it's going to give you the tools, CBT or whatever it is, to change that. And that's prevention right there. So it doesn't have to always be in the medical context or in the pathology that we talk about prevention. It can be in every situation of our life. If we have a tool, a sidekick, an edge, an advantage, let's use it, let's use it. And that's how I see prevention. Prevention is incredibly powerful because prevention also means you can change the present, not just the future.
Last question, but really about now that, there is like mental health practitioners, and I always see it's like two camps. One is like anti-AI completely. They just don't want to entertain anything about it. And then there's other one who's like always exploring and trying to find ways to how to manage it. So my question is, for the camp who's resistant to AI, is this resistance justified considering, what value it brings, how it changes their practice overall? And the second thing is, what's the path? How can we collaborate and get these people also on our side in the same camp? And how do you think about that?
It's a very good question. To be honest, some level of resistance is really natural and actually appreciated. And I tell you why. People are resistant when they care. So the way I see it is that, whether it's a therapist or a counselor or, your neighbor who's resistant to AI, that's good because they care about something, Now, a lot of it is just like being able to experience AI and experience the benefits. And so, therapists and mental health professionals, they have been trained extensively in the human-centered care, So it's understandable that they're cautious about any technology that comes out and claims to understand patients, So there is that legitimate concern about quality control, I'm concerned too, when I see some of the solutions out there about confidentiality and the risk of misinformation, that's very natural to be worried about that. But this needs to be actionable. And these are not trivial issues, right? So I believe, as you already said, collaboration is inevitable and beneficial. And to do this, we have to get people to really experience AI in real life on a day-to-day basis and without dragging them into the camp of the dystopian, fantasies or into the hallelujah club where AI is all good and then everything's going to be solved with it. We have to be down to earth and look for examples and opportunities to invite anyone to try and see where the value lies for them. And it's in essence a communication challenge. We have to keep telling the stories, showing the lived examples, sharing what we have found out and how it played out in our lives. And just to be very clear, we have lots of mental health professionals that use EarKick for themselves, and that encourage people to use it, And so we have lots of mental health professionals that are leading the way in this. It's not everyone is like, oh my God, this is dangerous. Many have found out that AI frees up their time. It aids in patient monitoring. It aids, keeping people engaged between sessions. It provides valuable data. It can inform, for more targeted interventions. And, like that. The list is endless. And I think what's stopping them again is a lack of experience with it, hands-on experience, maybe a lack of enough stories or a good, explanation of what it does and what it doesn't. And, the uncertainty about technology's clinical validity and all these concerns about regulatory frameworks, they will drive us towards creating clarity. And once that is addressed and we can join forces, for the good of humanity, for the good of every single individual, that's when we'll see the shift, And therapists will be part of the solutions, and they will realize that AI isn't a threat to their profession, but rather, a powerful ally that can help them support more people, be more effective, and be more human than ever before.
Well, this is it. It's not a threat. Let's make that clear. Use it to your advantage. Use it to expand your practice. Use it to serve more patients. Use it to serve more effectively. And that's the message we have it for everyone who's going to listen to this.
Yes. I
thank
I have this funny saying I'd like to share with you. When people come to me and say, oh, like AI, I say, yeah, you're right. AI is not going to hug you, but it might just save your day. It might save your relationship, and it may even save your life.
Love it. Great. This is great, thoughtful discussion. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Much appreciated for, again, leading the way of mental health stream on TopHealth. And we are looking forward to more insightful conversations like these with you. Thank you.